Have you ever stopped and wondered what it must feel like to look out across an entire city and realize that millions of people have been waiting for you? Not for a day, not for a week, but for years. What if everywhere you turned, there were reminders of your journey? Your face on giant screens, your name on buses, messages from fans covering streets and stations. And what if, at the exact same moment all of that was happening, you and your closest friends were sitting together, quietly reflecting on everything you had been through? The sacrifices, the struggles, the years apart, the years together, and the realization that despite everything you've accomplished, your story might still be far from over. Because that is exactly what seems to be happening with BTS right now. And the timing couldn't be more meaningful. As June arrives, BTS is not simply preparing for another concert. They are stepping into a moment that feels much bigger than music. A moment filled with memories, filled with gratitude, filled with promises, and perhaps most importantly, filled with hope. The group's massive ARIRANG World Tour is already making history. 86 concerts, 34 cities, the largest number of shows ever scheduled for a single tour by a Korean artist. Just hearing those numbers is enough to understand the scale. But numbers alone can never explain what this moment truly means. Because behind every sold-out stadium is a story, behind every cheering crowd is a relationship, and behind every record-breaking achievement are years of experiences that most people never see. As BTS prepared for their Busan concerts on June 12 and 13, something extraordinary began unfolding throughout the city. At first, it looked almost unbelievable. People arriving in Busan started noticing giant advertisements, massive visual displays, wrapped buses moving through crowded streets, video screens repeatedly broadcasting messages of support. It felt as though the city itself had become part of the celebration, and in many ways, it had. For Jin's fans, this wasn't just another concert weekend. This year carries special significance. It marks Jin's 13th debut anniversary. 13 years. Think about that. 13 years since the beginning of a journey that nobody could have fully predicted. 13 years of performances. 13 years of growth. 13 years of laughter, challenges, and unforgettable moments. So fans decided that an ordinary celebration simply wasn't enough. One fan group organized wrapped buses around HYBE headquarters in Seoul's Hanam-dong area. Another launched enormous wall advertisements covering nearly 80 meters around Sports Complex Station in Busan. Imagine walking through one of the busiest areas in the city and suddenly being greeted by a giant tribute dedicated to someone whose music has been part of your life for years. Imagine the emotions that would bring. For many fans, these weren't just advertisements. They were expressions of gratitude. Visual reminders of a bond that has lasted more than a decade. And the support didn't stop there. Throughout June, huge electronic displays at the Busan International Financial Center continued broadcasting tribute videos over and over again. Day after day, more than 100 times every single day. Additional video advertisements appeared across major transportation hubs throughout the city. Busan Station, Somyeon Station, Yonsan Station, Nopo Station, Sports Complex Station. No matter where fans traveled, there was a chance they would encounter another reminder that this moment mattered, that this celebration mattered, that Jin mattered. Other fan bases joined in as well. Special wrapped buses traveled through popular Busan districts. Some operated around the concert venue itself. Others carried messages through areas filled with visitors preparing for the event. Meanwhile, banner advertisements appeared near Busan Station and around the stadium. Special anniversary cafe events welcomed fans in Seoul. Additional events took place in Tokyo. Different countries, different languages, different cultures, yet all connected by the same feeling: support, love, and appreciation. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, something remarkable becomes clear. These projects require time, planning, resources, dedication. Nobody forces fans to do these things. Nobody asks them to. They do it because they want to. Because somewhere along the way, BTS became more than artists whose music people listen to. For many, they became companions through difficult chapters of life, sources of comfort during uncertain moments, voices that arrived when they were needed most. And perhaps that is why these displays feel so emotional, because they aren't celebrating a celebrity. They're celebrating a relationship, a connection that has survived the passing of time. But while fans were busy expressing their gratitude, BTS themselves were revealing something equally moving. During Festa, the annual celebration marking their debut anniversary, the members sat down to share thoughts that offered a rare glimpse into their hearts. What they said wasn't focused on trophies, or rankings, or records. Instead, they talked about growth. And that might be the most powerful story of all. The members reflected on the opening concerts of the ARIRANG World Tour in Goyang, 3 sold-out nights, approximately 130,000 attendees, an overwhelming response. Yet when they looked back on those concerts, the memory they chose to talk about wasn't the crowd size. It wasn't the success. It wasn't the headlines. It was the rain. They remembered standing together on stage while rain poured down around them, and they laughed. Just laughed. There's something beautiful about that. Because after all these years, after reaching heights that very few artists in history ever experience, they still find joy in moments that cannot be planned. Moments that cannot be bought. Moments that exist only because they experienced them together. And then came another reflection that quietly revealed how much they have changed. The members admitted that years ago, after concerts ended, they often didn't know how to spend their time. Everything moved so quickly. The schedule never stopped. The next destination was always waiting. But now they approach those moments differently. Now they fill them with meaning. Sharing dinners together, creating small memories, enjoying simple conversations, finding happiness in ordinary moments. At first glance, it may seem insignificant, but perhaps that change says more about their maturity than anything else. Because growing older isn't always about becoming bigger. Sometimes it's about learning to appreciate things that once went unnoticed. And BTS seems to understand that now more than ever. The conversation became even more emotional when they reflected on a memory from Mexico City. Standing before enormous crowds gathered around Zocalo Square, they found themselves genuinely stunned. The scale was almost impossible to comprehend. The members admitted they weren't even sure why so many people had gathered. Was it because of the festival? Was it because of BTS? The question itself reveals something fascinating. Even after becoming global superstars, there are still moments when they seem surprised by the impact they have on the world. Still moments when they struggle to fully grasp how many lives they have touched. And perhaps that humility is part of what makes their story resonate with so many people. But the most emotional part of their discussion arrived when they began comparing who they are today to who they were 4 years ago. The members explained that the energy connecting all 7 of them remains unchanged. That bond still exists, that chemistry still exists, that friendship still exists. But something else has changed. They have become gentler, more understanding, more mature. They described it as finally feeling like adults. Think about that statement for a moment. Many people spend years wondering whether their friendships can survive change, whether relationships can survive growth, whether people moving in different directions can still remain connected. Yet BTS seems to have discovered something special. Growth doesn't always pull people apart. Sometimes it brings them closer. Sometimes it teaches them how to understand each other better, how to support each other better, how to love each other better. And maybe that's why their words carried so much emotion. Because they weren't speaking as performers. They were speaking as 7 people who have spent more than a decade growing up together. 7 people who have experienced things few others can understand. 7 people who continue choosing each other. Then came the statement that may have surprised fans the most. A statement that feels almost unbelievable considering everything BTS has already achieved. This is just the beginning. Just the beginning. How can someone who has already reached so many milestones still say that? How can a group with global influence, sold-out stadiums, countless awards, and millions of supporters around the world still view themselves as being at the start of something? Perhaps the answer lies in the mindset that brought them here in the first place. They are still dreaming, still planning, still imagining what comes next. Still believing there is more to accomplish, more music to create, more memories to make, more experiences to share. And perhaps that's exactly why fans continue supporting them with such passion. Because people are naturally drawn to stories that continue evolving, stories that refuse to end, stories where every chapter leads to another. As BTS prepares to take the stage in Busan, surrounded by a city overflowing with love and support, one feeling seems impossible to ignore. This isn't simply a concert. It isn't simply an anniversary. It isn't simply another stop on a world tour. It feels like a reunion between people who have spent years growing together. Fans expressing gratitude, artists expressing gratitude, both sides looking back on the past while simultaneously looking toward the future. And maybe that's why one particular message feels so powerful right now. A message appearing across support projects, a message shared by countless fans, a message simple enough for everyone to understand. Let's be together for a long, long time. Because after everything BTS and ARMY have experienced together, that message no longer feels like a wish. It feels like a promise. And standing on the edge of this new chapter, with Busan ready to welcome them and the world watching closely, one question remains. If this truly is only the beginning, then how incredible might the next chapter become?